All right, let's get my boy down. Can I just... Does this hurt? Yes. Is there a thingy? No. What do I do? Ooh. Can I like swing him around? Maybe I create a platform under him and then drop him onto it? Kind of stressful. It's like, what if I murder him? Feels like there's a genuine risk here. Oh yeah, if you're one of the people who thinks mild criticism is a sign that I hate a game or I went in wanting to hate it or whatever, even though I've said this is like one of the better Zelda games I've played, I'm the crazy person that's like, Ocarina, don't really want to ever play it again. Wait till later episodes of Chronos when they come out. You'll see what it looks like when I'm playing a game I hate. That'll fucking calibrate your meter. If you think that anything I've said in this game is me being like, I hate Skyward Sword, grr. I feel like I've been tricked. Does this actually... Oh, does this work? That's weird. Okay. I wouldn't call that intuitive. It's like solid, heavy, molten rock that you somehow blow away with a fan. The only reason I figured it out is because they locked me in this small room with no way out. I'm like, okay, I must have a way out then. There must be a thing I have that solves the problem. So I guess if nothing else, yeah. Putting the treasure chest on that side of that was like them sort of trying to tutorialize this without just spelling it out. Because they can be like, he'll have to figure it out. They'll just have to put their faith in us, Nintendo, that you're not just trapped in a point of no return. Can I blow you around? Somehow no, and I'm not really sure how. It's interesting that people can think that I'm being like really hard on this game, and I'm like, this is the game that is the punching bag of the Zelda franchise that everyone shits on all the time for being the shitty Zelda game, and I'm like, you know what? It's actually a lot better than people say it is. And then I'm the guy that's like being unfair, and it's like, what? I'm giving this game more credit than normal. Everyone else is really mean to this game. Is this the same chamber from earlier? No. It has a different number of things in it. And kill. Alright. Yeah. Calibrate. Yeah. 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 But yeah, I do think the motion controls are really awkward though. It's definitely part of the identity of the game, but at the same time, it suffers from age. This game has aged in a way faster than some of the other Zelda games do, just because of the fact that it wasn't ready. The Wii wasn't ready yet. It was Nintendo's big motion control platform, and they were going to have motion controls in their games, obviously. But the Wii just wasn't the best motion controls, to the point where they literally iterated to a different form of motion controls midway through the console generation, because they went from a sensor bar to a gyroscope, and then you can go back and forth between two. But it's like a patchwork support system where both of them are incomplete. What is going on here? I'm missing something about how this guy works. Oh, maybe I use the bat. Yeah. If I can't see anything to do, then I probably use the scarab to go find something somewhere else. But like, when I'm playing around with VR and stuff like that, I'm like, wow. In some ways, motion controls have really gotten better in certain ways. I'm really shocked by how one-to-one the Vive controller can be, for example. Or the index controller, sorry. Although I think that might be the Vive. I think the index might be a variation of the Vive, I think I've heard, or something like that. Is there nothing in that room to do? But yeah, just seeing how much motion controls have advanced over the years, you end up being like, oh, I'm a little sad that this game came out when it did. Because it was technology that was kind of still a work in progress. Because in many ways, when Zelda first came into existence, or 3D Zelda, like, controller technology wasn't that far off. Like, the Nintendo 64 controller is not perfect. It's got all sorts of issues, but it's still like a controller, and it mostly works as one does. But motion controls on the Wii and the Wii U just weren't where they are now. And I'm just thinking, like, what if this game had flawless controls? Wouldn't that be incredible? The Skywing would still be an issue. Can I talk to you then? Hot, hot? I'm not some sideshow for you to gawk at. No, I think I'm fucked. I think they gave me a key, right? So I can at least open this door. I think I am all out of solutions for that. I must have to go into that lava room and then find a solution via that hallway. Like, I'll probably come through that door later. Maybe I'll even gain the ability to, maybe I'll even gain the ability to walk on lava? Like iron boots or something? Or maybe I'll gain the ability to, like, carry these around like bombs, these things. I don't know. But yeah, there was a comment there. Somebody was asking, like, is Skyward Sword as bad as they all say? And I'm like, nah, people are really dramatic. Like, really dramatic. And, like, fandoms get incensed about things sometimes. And get really crazy about the idea of there being, like, massive quality disparities. It's like a game not quite meeting their expectation for what they think is the correct feeling for a particular game in a franchise can often be mistaken for the idea that something is actually bad. When there's certain franchises where the quality level tends to be good enough that even the quote-unquote bad one is often a weird example. Like people talk about Return of the Jedi being bad. And it's like, it's worse than the first two Star Warses. But it's still a pretty solid Star Wars movie. And then you have like Dark Souls 2. And it's like, no, there are, oh god. There's like actually bad examples, like Devil May Cry 2, for example, where it's like, my god, what have they done? Or Mass Effect Andromeda. It's like the disparity between being the quote-unquote bad one in a way where, like, it's actually, like, negligibly worse, or in some ways debatably even better than the other games, versus being a game that's just absolutely awful that is also in a series. There's often that lack of nuance there. And so I made a point, I'd tell that person's like, nah, actually, it's like, there's... all Zelda games are of comparable quality to each other. Being the bad Zelda is not the same thing as being a bad game. Until, they really fuck up and then they make a genuinely awful Zelda game that isn't, Nyam, 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 nyam. That isn't like the CDI games that people don't count. That's the grand betrayal, is when, like, fucking Mass Effect Andromeda happens and you're like, oh no. The assumption of quality this franchise had is no longer true. And that just hasn't happened for Zelda. Not except in ways that where you can really easily discount the thing as not being a real Zelda to begin with. Like clear spin-offs or weird bootleg properties that weren't made by anyone tied to the original thing and are on an obscure platform that nobody got to play anyway, so you just kind of pretend that "excuse me, princess" never happened outside of memes. I kind of thought that puddle would just delete that slime. Yeah, I find there's a lot to love about this game, and I actually prefer the way that they dungeonify the open world. I think that's kind of like where we were kind of going already. I don't know what... I feel like something's going on with how these are hanging everywhere. Are they meant to just be an obstacle, or am I supposed to interact with them in some way? But the, I think this is like the ultimate form of where Zelda was going up until now, was the, when I played like Twilight Princess and Majora's Mask and things, it's like the environment is full of mechanics and things to solve and so on. It's like one of the main, like the dungeons themselves were vaguely static. Oh, you gotta drink. Yeah. Okay. So there must be like a way to get the water from one of these things into the frog face. But like watching them layer on more and more mechanics into the world around you that you have to solve through to get to the dungeon and so on, it only felt natural to me for them to eventually make it like proto dungeons at that point. Even if it does lead to funny moments where I'm like not entirely sure when I'm in a dungeon or not. Yeah. Shit. Shit. Yeah, the question is, can I blow these around? Oh! Ha! It's like when you stab a pumpkin. Oh my god. That's neat. This game has other issues though. Like there's too many puzzles that just get explained to you. I'm actually really surprised they didn't explain that one to me. I got to have an aha moment, which was cool. But too many aha moments are robbed from me in this game, which is a bummer. Because puzzle solving's fun. It also feels like a retroactive cheapening of my accomplishments if I think of a solution and then the moment I start implementing said solution or whatever fee or someone interrupts the game to explain the thing I already figured out. It's like, no, don't explain it immediately afterwards. I'm feeling good about the fact that I solved that myself. This game has issues, but I'm maybe it's because I'm coming to them later and without nostalgia, but I find most of these games have issues. But they're all still some of the, like, most enjoyable games out there. Oh boy. Well, that's less ominous now that I know what's going on. Okay, why do we have dramatic music? Is this actually a boss fight this time? Last time it was just a couple of hands, and it didn't really matter. Yep. Oh, the other one was coming to help, damn it. The other one was, I thought the other one was gonna attack me. Help me? Okay, cool. Alright. So I think they wanted me to realize this. And now I use these to like fight them both or something? Gah! Double kill. Oh, I defeated like the concept of lava. Oh. Wow. Huh.
Hey. I was watching you, pal. You really sucked at those lava thingers. Amazing stuff. If you don't mind doing me one more thing while you're at it, how about you get me down from here?
Maybe I should have thought of that, but I had like 5 running theories of how I was gonna solve this level, and none of them involved lowering the water level, or lowering the lava level. Although I should have thought that at some point. Like that does make some sense. But even if I was thinking about lowering the lava level, I would have never thought you do it by beating up the lava. You beat up the lava and then it's like, ow, and then it leaves. I was wondering how I was gonna get back in here from this door, which was clearly was gonna happen, and then somehow be able to help. Oh, there's a lever to the lava switch that's under the lava. A lever to the chain. That's distressing.
Oh, yeah.
That pogo tail is so strange. What are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm saved. I don't know who you are or where you're from, but I owe you big time. Are you here looking for treasure too? Yep. Haha, you were totally caught up in that too, pal. I can see it on your face. You're here because of the Legend of the Sleeping Statue, right? Well, those are some busted old digging mitts. You can't go using them for treasure hunting. I got it. As a thanks, I'm gonna give you a replacement pair for my secret stash. Don't you go nowhere.
What? A whole chest?
All yours. They've been in a buried treasure chest, so they ain't dirty or anything.
They're gonna be used for digging. I mean, dirty's fine, probably.
Now, these ain't the kind of thing that you can easily get your hands on just anywhere, so take good care of them. Right then, I'm out of here, so long.
These are basically the most friendly NPC race in all of Zelda. Which is exactly the opposite of what you expect from a treasure hunting, like, seemingly greedy group that, like, they just want to get jewels and things. But they seem to, like I said before, they seem to only care about hunting the treasure and not getting it. Because they just give it to you for the smallest favors. And some, like in this case, this was a bigger favor, but in the past, the favors are often smaller. And there's like, oh, whatever, here's some free stuff. And they don't seem that committed to getting the treasure as much as wanting to hunt it. They're like geocachers. You got the magma mitts. Even the magma don't use digging mitts this fancy very often. Do they use mitts ever? They don't just dig holes, they also let you burrow your way under the ground. Try to find holes that you can dig down into. Oh, we finally know what's up with the weird hole-shaped holes. The holes that instead of turning into that, turn into a hole. So I saw one of those in this dungeon earlier, and I saw one of them before this dungeon. Well, clearly this is the one, apparently. Oh! What? I wasn't expecting this. Can you turn around? Boxes are undefeatable, apparently. So is this like a magma tunnel? Is that like their loot? Am I robbing them?
Hey, pal. How are those mitts treating you? If you want to get a good look above ground, try pressing Z. Got it? Press Z to see above ground. Don't you go forgetting it.
Z is the left B? Yeah. Oh my god. Oh wow. It's all 1-to-1 too. I wasn't expecting that. I figured this was like an instanced separate area. Then you beat it and you come out and it's like, oh, you came out over here. But it's actually 1-to-1 with the above world. That's genuinely neat and unexpected. Scurry, scurry, scurry. So it turns out these guys put their fucking work in. I guess I got my theories answered. Because if you look at this place, like, they have scaffolding in here. Like, they set these places up. They take their... Okay, it rolls. I was a little worried. They take their job seriously. There really is like an entire fucking society down here of these hallways. It's impressive that it's here because they're seemingly going on an adventure here, but even when they go on expeditions, which you would take to be like more temporary things, you would take these to be more temporary tunnels, even they're all built up. In a weird way, it's interesting to think that like this is one of the few cases where you don't get to see the society of a race. There's probably more examples if we try to run through the list. But in a lot of Zelda games, you get to visit like the town. Like in Ocarina of Time, you go to the Goron city, and it's like, oh, we're the Gorons. Here's the thing that's bad, wrong, and that's going bad right now. Ah, help us. We're starving. Rocks, something. And then you like go solve their problems. But so far, we haven't really gotten to see how the Magmas live or where they're located and so on. And it's because their way of living is like incompatible with you. Until now, maybe. It's kind of like the Zora. Ooh, there we go. It's kind of like when there are Zora in a game, but you can't swim yet, basically. So it's like, okay, well, they probably live somewhere, but I can't swim to them, so. And then you get swimming eventually, and you emerge in like some place, maybe. The Rito are different because you usually don't have to fly to visit the Rito. They're usually just there. It's just like a high up Ewok town where flying could come in handy. And the Gorons just straight up don't live in a way that is hard to get to, aside from sometimes living in a hot place. In Breath of the Wild's case. Of all things, that's the mechanic that came back. And that's a good example of it not being a monkey destruction switch, is that in a Breath of the Wild, it's actually an entire chunk of the map where you need heat resistance in order to survive, just like how there's a whole area where you need cold resistance to survive. And so that's an actual gameplay mechanic, as opposed to just being like, yeah, that one room you can't get in until you get that one power, and then that one power won't help you in any other way for the rest of the game. So they took that idea and they iterated on it. That's kind of the fun thing about criticizing Nintendo games, is that they're really thoughtful game designers. And so whenever they make a game that has an apparent flaw, they kind of they often seem to be the ones that themselves like really think about that and chew on that for a while. So when Skyward Sword comes out in what, 2011, and they have a half-baked heat mechanic that doesn't really go anywhere, lo and behold, they fucking come back. Is that gonna fall? No. I still see that as a little bit of a flaw, is that some buttons release when you get off them and some don't, and it's not like a huge problem, but it's like I still haven't picked up on any way to tell them apart besides just testing them, and that feels like they should maybe just be a different thing from each other instead of the same thing. Ah, shit. Is this the front entrance I'm at? Where am I? No, behind me is not the front entrance. I don't really want to go back out the front door yet, but I gotta remember that there was a tunnel out there. Was there anything back here? This was the first one of these. I encountered one of those things. There it is. Here we go. But yeah, they have this heat mechanic that just isn't very good. And it's a monkey destruction switch. And then in Breath of the Wild, they're like, well, we're gonna fix that. And so they revisited it. In many cases, they only revisited a mechanic seemingly because it's like a greatest hit, like the claw shot, or really obvious basic shit like a bow that's just too integral to not include. Like stuff like the claw shot / hook shot and so on is like greatest hits, integral elements of like, this is what makes a 3D Zelda game feel like a 3D Zelda game. Like it becomes like core to the identity, so they use them all the time. But the fire earrings, like that kind of mechanic, is such a whatever mechanic. So you can totally feel the idea that like they might have revisited it specifically because they were dying to implement that mechanic, but it just didn't work out the first time. And so like, we're gonna try again. I could be projecting a lot, obviously, but it does fit. It's easy to feel this idea of like them wanting to improve upon their previous designs and remembering their failures. Because you can really feel Nintendo's self-awareness of their own flaws and limitations in their designs a lot of the time. Which is what I also pointed out earlier about... Wait, did I even get anything? What was the point of this whole path? Oh, I can defeat one of these guys. That's what this was. It's like you can feel that in the Wii itself was like they were trying to hit a moving target. And you can feel that with the way that the motion controls are really iffy. Fuck. Like there's problems with the first version of motion controls, so they went back and made a new version of motion controls midway through their own console run. And it's like I'm not making up criticisms here. Like they themselves know about the limitations and flaws of these platforms, and they were working on them. Na. I think it's part of the reason I like playing their games so much is that... How do I get under there? Between... I think it's like Zelda, or not Zelda, it's Nintendo and Supergiant Games are like the two companies that I really like to think about, like, what's going on behind the scenes and what their thought processes are and why they do what they do and so on. Because their games are really... They're almost never undercooked. Their games are constantly like very well realized visions, and instead of just following trends, they're usually setting trends. And then even there's another bottle. So many bottles. Or even when they follow a trend, they do it specifically to subvert and show what that trend can be. And I think that's why there's some of my favorite developers, like Breath of the Wild and Hades are so important. Like I've gone on about Pyre constantly, especially in the Patreon Q&A and so on, just for years, ever since I played it a few years ago. So I think Pyre is so cool for what it does with gameplay merging with storytelling in a Papers, Please sort of way, and how creative and interesting that game is. But what is it iterating on? It's like, I guess, the sports visual novel genre? It's like, Pyre is kind of its own thing. So Pyre is Supergiant trend-setting, I guess. Or at least if anyone actually makes a Pyre-like or something. Because they kind of made their own weird thing with that game. But then go into Hades. And much like Bastion before it, Hades is like, we're going to take existing genres, but make them good? Because depending on how you look at it, Bastion is either a dual-stick shooter or a Diablo-like kind of game, like a hack-and-slash dungeon crawler, whatever you call those games. Like a looter shooter, but without the shooter part. Like before looter shooters existed, they were top-down click-a-thons. Like Diablo 3 is just like designed to make you keep clicking forever, and the numbers keep getting bigger, and then it keeps giving you quote-unquote new content, and you keep clicking and the numbers get bigger, and you keep clicking and the numbers get bigger, but like it demands very little of you. And dual stick shooters are kind of like a monotonous, like you just kind of shooty. Hello. Where have I gone and found myself off to? I just went back to the beginning. Okay, yeah, this was a dead end. But I went and got the bottle. But the, yeah. Like, there's a mindless aspect to dual stick shooters, where they're often just, like, pure reaction and just... Oh, that reset the instance and brought the bosses back, didn't it? The enemies back. I can run past a lot of them. I did think that was a weirdly long loading time for the door, and it's because it was actually leaving the zone. Load-wise. Like, both dual stick shooters and Diablo clones tend to be really mindless for different reasons. One is pure reaction and just catharsis and so on, and the other one is just pure grinding. And it's supposed to be your zombie game that you just kind of burn time with because you like feeling progress. which can have their places in life and so on. But Bastion was like, hey, we're gonna make a game, and we're not gonna have loot in our game specifically. We're gonna have like pre-crafted levels that are always the same, and we're gonna have a bunch of special weapons that each have their own moveset, and they're all gonna have nuances to them. Like the starting hammer looks like just a normal swinging melee weapon, but it's got nuance and tricks to it, or that there's finesse to be had. Because like if you plant your feet, you get a better power swing. So you specifically want to stop your movement every time you swing, but it's optional. You can swing while moving too, and da da da. It's like they're taking whichever one you want to count it as. They're taking the idea and making it more thoughtful and interesting, and it was immediately my game of the year candidate for that year, and one of my favorite games, just in general. Its primary competition being the fact that it came out the same year as Dark Souls, so that candidacy gets a little hard. But yeah, when I played Bastion and Dark Souls that year, I could not even pretend to give a fuck about Skyrim. Like, that was the winner that year, and I'm always on the wrong side of history as far as popularity goes, like how Fortnite, I laughed at this, I just scoffed at how silly and stupid that was. Fortnite becoming a battle royale, and then obviously that worked out for them. That doesn't mean I don't feel like I'm wrong about it, but it worked out for them financially. But, you know, popularity doesn't always equate quality. In fact, it frequently doesn't. But Hades is constantly being shown to be this really big deal of a game because it specifically takes roguelike aspects and subverts some of the problems there. In part, the struggle to like want to keep playing, because roguelikes are all about making your big build and getting lucky, but also having this big skillful run where you pull off everything in one run, and every single like point of damage you take has consequences. So it's like that stress and aspect. Like there's a lot of cool elements to the roguelike thing, but for people like me, the most punishing part of a roguelike, or to the point where it's kind of like devastating to the genre and makes it feel like I don't want to play it anymore, is just the death being so punishing. So Hades, they're like, well, here's a bunch of crazy shit going on that makes death weirdly satisfying. It's like the death is still a punishment because you lost, but at the same time, you get to like experience all these cool story beats and elements that are all developing, and it's specifically in an area that's accessible between your runs only. So you're looking forward to the between your runs part and the runs themselves, and that's like a great dynamic. And then I've gone on to, in that aspect, I've gone on to great lengths praising. Let's just go down here. I should be able to get back up. I've gone to great lengths praising Breath of the Wild because, like, I was one of those Ubisoft guys that played Assassin's Creed and 100%ed the everything when it was fresh and new. Assassin's Creed 1. Ah! It wouldn't put it in the thing. Oh, a 10 is my cap. Okay. I played so much Assassin's Creed. I 100%ed the entire game. Got every achievement. I even replayed the game for the missable achievements, like the ones where you press A whenever the glitchy effect happens on the screen in order to make an alternate scene play, which was fucking stupid. But I got every single collectible. There's 100 collectibles in each of the 3 cities, 100 collectibles in the area connecting the 3 cities, and then there's 20 more collectibles in your starting town. And then there's also 20 Templars that are unique that have to be found throughout the game. And I did every single one of those. And then I continued on and 100% completed, shit. I do this. Ah. I 100% completed, what's it called? Let's try to build a rupee, I guess. A rupee. Watch it not register again. Money. Hey, money. Wow, I got all of it. That was really satisfying. Like I wrung the life from those open world style games as they were coming out, and I got 100% completion of the single player component of Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Brotherhood, and Revelation. I say single player part because they added multiplayer in Brotherhood and Revelation, and I didn't do those achievements. But like I did it. But like Ubisoft was content to just keep making the same shit over and over again. And so I just burned out. I couldn't even beat the story of 3, and then they just kept making more and more and more and more. And I think this might be a boss chamber. No, the next room maybe. Oh no, another guy. And like I checked back in with Ubisoft now, and they're like, yeah, we're still pretty much just making the same boring open worlds, but now there's RPG mechanics. And I'm like, oh, cool. You added loot and grinding to your genre. That only makes it less interesting to me. It's like Breath of the Wild was such a fucking breath of fresh air. It was... I said breath of fresh air. Play on words. Accidental and on purpose, I'm not sure. But like that was them like, okay, for once, instead of setting trends, we're gonna follow a trend, but then we're gonna show how to do it better. And that's what Breath of the Wild did. It was the best open world game I've ever played, and I had a great time. And people keep shitting on it or whatever, and like, actually Breath of the Wild's boring and shitty. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. And we're all gonna disagree about everything all the time. I'm like, because I'm already against everything, because I'm the one that doesn't like Fortnite and stuff. But like that was such a step forward. And people are responding to that. There's not only is there a Ubisoft game that's trying to take after Breath of the Wild, there's also Genshin Impact that's also taking after Breath of the Wild. Like it's like they only, like, Nintendo follows trends just to set new trends. It's like these are two great developers. So hopefully that's enough gushing that you can stop making the mistake of thinking that I'm like just shitting on their games or whatnot, because that's just how I talk about everything.